Go right ahead.
Okay, we are live from the Crystal Dining Room here in Cincinnati. Okay, so I feel like a little bit like jumping the gun with what I'm going to talk about tonight because it's going to be related to Shavuos. However, this class is about the Parsha, so I'm just talking about the Parsha. So the Ramban points out in this week's Parsha that in the Parsha of the Moyadim, that means the part of this week's Torah portion that discusses all of the Chagim, all the festivals of the Jewish year cycle, each one of the Chagim, each one of the Yom Tovim are introduced by a Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar, that Hashem spoke to Moshe to tell the people, and he gave it, each one had its own command of Daber el Bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people about each one of the Maidim. It wasn't like a one command to teach all of the Maidim all at once to the Yidden, to the Jewish people. Rather, each one had its own Vayedaber Hashem Moshe Lemar, that Hashem spoke to Moshe regarding each and every Yom Tov. And why is that? Ramban says that that's because in each one of the Yom Tovim, each one of the Chagim, we add in a new mitzvah, meaning besides the fact that we say that you may not do malacha, right? You may not do work, you may not, and the fact that it's a holy day, right? Beyond that, there is a mitzvah introduced regarding every one of the Yom Tovim. So, points out the Ramban, it's very interesting then, that the Chag of Shavuos and the mitzvah of Omer are all in under one Vayedaber Hashem al Moshe Lemar, right? Meaning there's Pesach, which interestingly I just noted, it first says Shabbos, right? And then it goes right into Elam Mayadei Hashem Mikray Kodesh. These are the Mayadim and Asher Tikro is the Mayadam. And then it says launches into Pesach. Then we have the second Vayedaber Hashem Moshe Lemar is about the mitzvah of Omer. And following that it goes right into Shavuos without another stop of a Vayedaber Hashem. There was no command after we talked about the mitzvah of Omer going into Shavuos. And why is there no, Chayra, it would seem that they are two different mitzvahs, two different Yom Tovim, two different Inyanim. So says the Ramban that on the contrary, the reason why it's all one is because Shavuos is entirely dependent on the Omer. As the Ramban pointed out, right? It never says that in the third month on the 6th day you shall be a holy convocation for Hashem, right? It never says those words, right? It only says that on the 50th day, right? On the 50th day, meaning every other Yom Tov, we say on this month, on this day, right? Whatever number months, and on this day, that you shall have a Chag. Right? On Shavuos, it never says that. It says, you should count 77 weeks and count 50 days, and then on the 50th day, you shall bring a Mincha Chadash al Hashem. You shall bring a new carbon to Hashem. Right? There is no specific day given. It says the Ramban, this is because that Shavuos is dependent, right, like its name, right, is dependent on the counting of the Omer, right? That's what it's not a day, meaning the 6th day of Sivan was not the day given. The day was given that the day after you finish counting 7 weeks. Right? That was the day it was given, right? And the Ramban points this out even more starkly in another place. End of the Parsha, the Ramban says, at the conclusion of the Parasha, it says that that Moshe spoke over all of the Chagim to the Bnei Yisrael, and it says that the Ramban points out that in many mitzvahs it says it singles out that Hashem gave the mitzvah to the Kohanim and then to Bnei Yisrael, right? He gives examples of that. With the Yom Tovim, he does not single out the Bnei Aaron at all. Right? The family of Aaron is not singled out at all in this commandment. Says the Ramban, Vatam, the reason is because everyone is all equal in this. Right? Because, there's nothing to do with Karbanos. These parashas have nothing to do with the Karbanos, the sacrifices brought on during the any of the Chagim. This all has to do with the fact that they are holy days, right? Days of celebration, days of Chag, right? And the only carbon mentioned on this entire parsha of Mayadim here in Parashat Emor is the mincha of the Emor and the mincha of the carbon mincha brought. Well, the Shtei Halechem really you didn't really bring the Shtei Halechem on Shavuos. You wouldn't really put them on the mizbeach. They were eaten, right? So those two karbanos are the only ones mentioned in this parsha of the Mayadim. And says the Ramban, the reason why they are alone are mentioned is because it says the Ramban's words are the v'lo nizkar behen min hakarbanos. We don't mention any of the karbanos in this parsha, right? Levad karban ha'omer u'shtei halechem. Besides the carbon of the omer and the shtei halechem, the two loaves of bread specifically made on Shavuos, shehem hagarmim. They are what causes the Yom Tov of Shavuos. Meaning, when you bring the omer is when you start counting a certain count, right? And after that count is over, then you bring another carbon, and on that day you have another Chag, right? Meaning it's not that Shavuos is given as a day, and then we tell you that there's a carbon brought on that day. We say that there's a carbon at one point, and there's another carbon brought at another point, right? And on that day that you bring the second carbon is a Yom Tov, right? So, and to take this one step further, say develop this a little more. What is this? Says the Rabbeinu Bachya brings from the Ramban. Rabbeinu Bachya brings it out a little bit more, but he says that says regarding the pasuk that says that you count your 7 weeks. He says, okay, he says, he says, the pasuk says, the Shabbos, you shall begin counting from the day after the Shabbos, which we learn to mean is Pesach. From the day that you brought the Omer offering, Sheva Shabbos you should count 7 complete weeks. Ad Mimakat Shabbos Hashviyas, until after the end of the 7th week. Tisperu Chamishim Yom, you should count 50 days. So says Rabbeinu Bachya that everyone knows 7 times 7 is not 50, right? It's 49. So says Rabbeinu Bachya that you're reading the pasuk wrong. This is how you read the pasuk. It says you can't add Mimakat Shabbos Hashviyas Tisperu until the end of the 7 weeks. You shall count, and then stop, period, begin again. On the 50th day, you shall bring a mincha chadasha. So says the I just thought it was very interesting little thing that Rabbeinu Bachya says. But Rabbeinu Bachya continues, and it says that the Torah never mentions the Chag of Shavuos specifically like it does all the other Chagim, right? It never says a day. And it says that the reason being because Shavuos is the time in between Shavuos. The time in between Pesach and Shavuos is like the time in between the first days of Pesach and Shmini Atzeres. Meaning, and the words of the Ramban and the Ben Abachia both are, "Umem tes yom hasvurim ben rishon shel Pesach al Shavuos." The 49 days are counted between the first day of Pesach until Shavuos. Hinehem kecholo shel moed. It's Chol HaMoed. We are now in the middle of Chol HaMoed, right? Means there's two Chol HaMoed here. There's one between the first day of Sukkot and Shmini Atzeres, and there's also Chol HaMoed between first day of Pesach and Shavuos.
Shaving, huh?
Huh?
So that's why we're not shaving, huh?
That's why we're not shaving. Exactly. Very good. Right. So I don't know what significance now that it has. It's Chol HaMoed. Not sure what to do with that. Right. It seems that we have some significance that should be worked on. I don't have anything on that. But what is also significant is that Shavuos then is also, as Chazal call it, is Atzeres. Right. It's Atzeres. What's Atzeres? What is this Atzeres that Shavuos is? Right. That Shavuos is connected to Pesach. It's like the Atzeres of Pesach, right? What is this Atzeres? What is this concept of Atzeres that Shavuos is Atzeres to Pesach, and in between is a Chol HaMoed. So, towards the end of the Parasha, right, in explaining the concept of Atzeres, like this. What is this Atzeres of Shavuos? So there's a famous question. That I saw an answer to, that why do we have 2 days where we celebrate the giving of the Torah? Right? We have the Chag of Shavuos, we celebrate Kabbalas HaTorah, and then we have on Shmini Atzeres, right? We have Simchas HaTorah, we celebrate the fact that we have the Torah. Why is it split up into 2 days of celebration of the Torah? Why do we do it like that? So I saw an answer. I'm sure there's a million answers, but I saw one answer this year, that every gift that's given, there are 2 parts to it. Meaning, just as an example, right? We know there's a concept of a woman is, in order to create a kiddushin, to create the first step in a Jewish marriage, the man gives the woman something. One of the ways of doing it, beginning the first step of a Jewish marriage, is a man giving a woman a form of money, right? We use a ring, right? Based on, I think, a Zohar. We use a ring, right? But the point is the ring. It's not that it's a ring. It's that it's worth money, right? And so anything technically that's worth money could create kiddushin, create the first step in a Jewish marriage, right? So there's a concept in the Gemara in kiddushin that if a very important person, right, a famous person, a very important person, gives a woman a gift, even of negligible value, and says, "Be mikudesha to me," which means create this kiddushin with me, right, with the value of the fact that I am giving you a present, right? Meaning it's worth money it could be worth, depending on who the person is, right? If he's an Adam Chashav, the Gemara says, an important person, the fact that he gives anyone a gift, right, is something that whoever he gives a gift to, the person will remember the fact that he was given a gift by this person, no matter who they are, right? No matter what the gift was.
Is that Tovas Hana, or is that something else?
It's not Tovas Hana. I don't think that's Tovas. I think it's, I don't think so. Meaning everyone remembers, right? If I don't know, if you got something from the president, right? Like Bill Clinton says that the reason why he was inspired to go into politics was because he once got to meet John Kennedy, right? He met John F. Kennedy, he shook his hand, and for that experience of shaking John F. Kennedy's hand, right, he was inspired to be a leader of the American people, right? So if someone who you view as important, right, a basketball player gives you an autograph, right?
Rabbi Yehuda beating Rabbi Meir from behind.
What'd you
It
say?
was like Rabbi Yehuda beating Rabbi Meir, seeing
Right,
Rabbi Meir from behind, so that's when he became great.
Right, I hear. I think that might be there might be deeper stuff to that. But this is just even the giving of a gift, doesn't matter what it is, right? That it's worth money, the fact that I got something from this important person. So when it comes to us, that we got a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? There is no one, there's nothing in the world that can compare to getting a gift, receiving a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself, right? No matter what it was he gave us, right? That in itself, that we received something from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is an incredible simcha, an incredible something to rejoice in, right? Something incredible to be thankful for, right? And celebrate. And then, right, there's also the gift itself, right? Right? You celebrate when you get, you're very happy when you get a nice gift, right? No matter from who it is, almost, right? So over here, we got an incredible gift, right? We got the basis of our lives. We got the I need a good word, but the most precious thing in the world, right? We got the Torah. We got the Torah from Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It means we got two incredible things. Hashem gave us a gift, and we got a gift called the Torah. So to celebrate both of those things at one time in one day, right, is too much, right? The human mind cannot celebrate that much. We cannot celebrate to the extent necessary to really celebrate both things. So therefore, Chazal made 2 days. One is we celebrate the gift, right? Shavuot is we celebrate the gift, right, of Kabbalas Torah, right? So and Simchas and Shmini Atzeres is the day where we celebrate the fact that we got the Torah from Hashem. So I saw the Sipurno at the end of this week's Parasha about the concept of Atzeres. It's just interesting. He says that Shmini Atzeres is like where we see this brought out, and he connects it to other Yom Tovim as well. That Atzeres, what the Atzeres is, right? Rashi already says that Atzeres. What does it mean Atzeres? See that Shmini Atzeres, the 8th day after the first day of Sukkot is called Atzeres. What is Atzeres? That Rashi says brings the Medrash Atzarti Eschem Etzli, right? Hashem says, I'm going to restrain you here next to me, right? Stay back a day. So says the Sipurno, he says, Inin ha'atzira, hu loy bilvad lishbois melachas hedjot, the point of Atzeres, of remaining, restraining, staying behind, stopping from going out into the world, is not just not to do malacha, not to do the creative work that we do the rest of the week. He says, this is a mitzvah to stay at a certain point, in a certain place of holiness. To work in those places, it's like to serve, I should say, to serve in those places as a Kel Yisbarach, right? Hashem, the Torah or the Tefillah, rather in service of Hashem, whether in Torah or Tefillah, right? It's a day to celebrate Yiddishkeit, so to speak, right? Celebrating being with Hashem, doing all the things that Jews do, Torah, Tefillah, Avodah, right? Doing the mitzvahs, davening, learning Torah. It's really a day just to be a Jew, right? To do the things that make that define our relationship with Hashem and make it special, right? And he says the 7th day of Pesach is also that idea, right? That on the 7th day of Pesach, right, Bnei Yisrael stopped to sing Shira, to praise Hashem, to sing to Hashem. And because of that, stopping to spend a day singing to Hashem, forever after it was established a day of Atzeres Hashem also, right? And so he says by Shavuos also, he says, and Shavuos is that same idea, right? Because the 50th day from leaving Mitzrayim was the day of the giving of the Torah, that the Jewish people stopped, right, all together in the service of Hashem. So Chazal called it Atzeres because we stopped, because we are celebrating, because we received the Torah. So we're celebrating the giving of the Torah. We stopped to spend the day being Yidden, right? To spend the day, spending the whole day on nothing but Yiddishkeit, right? Davening, serving a mitzvahs, right? Learning Torah. That is our Atzeres. That is the concept of Atzeres. That is what we're doing when we stop on Shavuos, right? At the end of this count from Pesach. And interestingly, he says, why don't we find Chazal call it Atzeres? We find Chazal call Shavuos Atzeres. Why doesn't the Torah call Shavuos Atzeres? Says, interestingly, Sipurno, this is kind of anticlimactic, but he says, I just thought this was fascinating, so I wanted to share, that because of the eagle. The reason why the Torah doesn't call that Atzeres is because of the eagle, because they left behind that specialness, that the Edyam, the crowns they received from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Because of that, it lost its flavor, so to speak, somewhat and therefore the Torah doesn't call it Atzeres. The Chazal call it Atzeres because that's what we're doing, right? There's no other mitzvahs on Shavuos. All the Yom Tovim, it's very interesting. So it comes out all the Yom Tovim that don't have a specific mitzvah, right? The Shvi Shel Pesach, Shavuos, Shmini Atzeres, right? These are all, he's saying, says it's funny, these are all really Atzeres. These are all under the concept of Atzeres, that we are serving, we're spending a day only in the service of Hashem, on the basics, right? The everyday mitzvahs, our Torah and our Tefillah. Thank you everyone for coming in to listen. Thank you for joining me in my dining room.
Before I leave, I have a question.
Okay.
I'm learning Sefer Chinuch with my son, and it happens to be that we're learning what we're learning this week. And the way the Sefer Chinuch makes it sound like is that in addition to the usual sacrifices from Parshas Pinchas, that it was like a double set of sacrifices brought because of the Shtei Alechem on Shavuos. And I think you stated that explicitly, and I couldn't understand. Are we giving the sets of sacrifices? The 7 sheep, the 7 lambs, and the ram, and the bull, and the goat, and you're doing it again. And it's mentioned specifically in this week's parsha also, where none of the other sacrifices are mentioned, with the Shtei Alechem. And am I misunderstanding that? Is it just you're giving one set of sacrifices and they mention it twice, or is it like the Chinuch seems to be?
I believe that it is. It's 2 whole sets, meaning together the Shtei Alechem.
2 separate sets.
Right. There's 2 separate sets. Right. There's the Shtei Alechem karbanos, and then there's the karbanos of Musaf that are brought, that are talked about.
Which are identical.
Except for, yes, they are identical. You're right. Except for that in Emor we add on. I think there's 2 more. There's 2 more
sheep. Yeah.
Right. There's 2 more sheep added in this week's parsha. Right. And those have a special connection with the. We learn how those have a special connection with the Shtei Alechem. Yeah, they are 2 sets. It's a Gemara Menachos. In the Shtei Alechem. Where does it come up? It comes up in the end, towards the end of Hatcheles, or there's a Mishnah where it talks about the Shtei Alechem in the middle of Menachos. You can look at that Gemara over there. It goes through and learns out all the concept of why it's more connected to those 2 and the Karbanos and the whole thing. Yeah, so it's a Gemara. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Shabbos. Thank you.
Have a good Shabbos.
Happy
You got it.
Pesach. See you tomorrow.
Great Shabbos.
Okay, take care.